Welcome to Life Burst. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Matt. Well, from the farm to photography, we have another great story for you today.
And on today's show, we have the one and only John Adams. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Right, so let's start at the beginning of your life. Where did life start out for you, John?
Wow. So I'm in Maitland on a farm, actually. So grew up on a farm with a big family.
Right.
Yes.
How big? Yeah,
come on.
I've got 4 brothers and 4 sisters. So
Wow.
life was never a dull moment growing up on the farm. So
Where do you fit in with that?
So I was the first. So I'm not sure whether they thought they needed to try harder to get, or whether they thought it was really great and they just had more. So
It's a different way to look at it.
it is a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, so Maitland. So farming, your parents were farming?
Yes, so yeah, just out of town, Maitland. So yeah, wheat, barley, and we had some sheep as well. So yeah, it was fun.
Right.
What's your earliest memory?
Earliest memory. I think actually a lot of it rotates around the farm and tractors and all those sort of cool things that you get to do. So yeah, I really enjoyed growing up, and yeah, I think just it is mainly my earliest memories are around the tractors, headers of all the trucks and the siding stuff growing up, those sort of things. So yeah, it was good.
Okay, so Maitland was the starting point, but your family didn't stay there.
No, so we moved when I was 12 to Eyre Peninsula, Cummins, which you know well. And so from 12, which was a bit of a hard transition, leaving behind the friends that I had and like the sport and community to move to a new community. But that was a really important transition for our family. And like land prices were really good over there, so it was good to be able to start again. And bit of a change for us.
So as a kid, what was it like going to school in Maitland?
Well, interestingly enough, I was actually homeschooled, so didn't even have to leave the house. So school was right there. Mum was a trained teacher, so she actually taught us at home. So she had a class of 9, a mixture right through from reception right through to high school. So yeah, a bit of a different way of doing life in school, but it was actually really quite rewarding. And we had a lot of hands-on experiences through that as well, including, might add, Help Mum Day, which basically was sort of almost, like slave day, I suppose, but you get to do all the chores around the place. And
How exciting.
at the time I thought, this doesn't seem very exciting, but you got to, those skills have become really helpful in being able to prepare a meal and all the washing and all that sort of thing growing up. So, and I soon worked out how to say, well, Dad's doing all the fun stuff. What about if I, as the eldest, could do a Help Dad Day?
Okay.
So that sort of was a lot more fun. So I was able to do that and get out and drive tractors. And so when I was 12 years old, I was actually Dad trusted me with the operation of a tractor. So all by myself.
So by the time you moved over to Cummins, you had started to help out with your dad on the farm.
Yeah. So I think for him too, it was like helpful to have a bit of a extra help, being that he'd always had his brothers and other help around the farm, and he would moved over by himself. So must have been getting a little bit more desperate to get me involved. So yeah. But it was really helpful skills for myself. So
Tell us, how do you learn to drive a tractor? Is it like a car or how?
Well, it's just a bigger version. Everything's just bigger. So you still got gears. I mean, it's a little bit more a little bit more difficult to change them, but everything's similar. It's just bigger, and you're up very high. So we had a big John Deere articulated tractor, which means it had 8 wheels, like the duals, so 2 wheels at the back, or either side, and 2 wheels at the front either side. So you're very high, and you felt like you really were a man, at 12 years old driving a big machine. So it was really good fun.
Now, not all city people would understand country life. What were some of the things you loved about growing up in the country?
think the simple lifestyle, which country can be judged for, but there's something really great about not being, this slower pace of life and just being able to, the well-being involved with being out in nature. And, we would quite often be sent out after lunch on a Saturday and say, come back at tea time, and we didn't have to worry about roads and traffic and all the other, we're safe on a farm. And, we learnt to assess our own dangers, including, I remember there's a few stories where we may have assessed that danger wrong.
You need to expand on
Oh, you do?
Yeah, you totally need to expand on this.
You're not going to get into trouble.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was careful who's listening. But I remember one of them, my brother, actually climbed a pine tree. I mean, trees are there to climb, aren't they? Really,
Yeah.
So he climbed up the top of this pine tree, and he was very young. I don't know, I'm just guessing at around 7. Might be wrong, and he got caught there and he was hanging off. He fell and then grabbed a branch. And he was hanging just by this branch on this tree. And so we have 2-way radios. So on the radio, there's this call going out, Dad, help. And because one of the kids was talking, and it's the whole community can hear this stuff. There's brothers on the tree and there's going, and he's screaming into this. And so then people from the community going, oh, we'll come over. And long story short, my other brother, so this is Eric, I just cremated him. And my other brother Daniel was climbed up the tree and as Eric fell, because he eventually couldn't hold on anymore. Daniel was a bit of a miracle, but he was able to grab his hand and swing him back onto a branch, and it would have been probably about a 5-meter fall to the ground. Yeah. So anyway, these are some of the stories that happen on a farm, and that one was fortunately broadcasted across the whole community.
And did the whole community turn up?
I think we actually had a nurse roll in soon after, but everything was okay. So it's a great thing about the country. So many of those good stories.
Fun learning experiences.
Fun learning experiences.
Yeah. So as you continue to grow up there, into your teenage years, what were some of the things you got involved in the community?
Yeah, so surprisingly, there was a lot to get involved in the country. So, including sport, for me, football, at the mighty United Yelena, which playing there, that was good, really good community, as well as a youth group. I started out at Tumby Bay Uniting Youth Group there, and ended up actually being asked to run a youth group in the local town, Yelena. And Cummins. So ended up getting involved in that later on, but also things like I played a bit of cricket, a lot of things like the beach. There's some great beaches over on our peninsula, and if there's somebody on the beach, you sort of go to the next beach because there's just so many of them to choose from. So they're good memories. But surprisingly there was a reasonable amount to do if you could find it.
Is that your tip for people who are going to go over and visit, that if they do go to one of the beaches, they should go to another one because there's so many and they'll have the beach to themselves?
Maybe, yes.
There we go.
Especially on the west coast. So there's the east coast, which is Port Neal, Tumby Bay, along there. Probably a little bit busier along those towns, but you go on the west coast and along there, and there's so many beaches and not a lot of people. So the rule is if you go there and there's somebody there, you think, oh, well, let's just go around the corner to the next one.
Yeah.
And a lot of good fishing opportunities over there too, in the way of salmon, and it's good fun.
You've just changed that now, though. You've put the word out, and
I know
that's where everyone's going to be heading.
I haven't labelled any of the beaches.
Oh, good. Yeah, no secret spots.
Yes, you have to pay for those. So yeah.
This is Life Burst, and we are talking to John. We'll be back straight after this.
On Life Burst, we're hearing John's story today, growing up on the Eyre Peninsula. Now, there's got to be some more stories growing up in the land of freedom and adventure over there.
There's certainly some. Probably some I can't talk about.
Okay.
Are you wanting me to share one, are you? Is that what you're...
Yeah, yeah. You're going to incriminate yourself?
Actually, I might not. I might incriminate my good friend.
Safer.
Yes, that's what I say for not family, so I've already incriminated them. But I remember one of the great things, I remember my 12th birthday, I got a box with a go-kart wheel and a few, I think it was a steering wheel and a few things. I'm like, great, I need to put it together. So basically the project was to weld up and like to make a go-kart. And so Dad and I were able to make a go-kart together, which is a lot of fun. So we made this go-kart and it created us a lot of fun, and a lot of people used to come over just to have a ride on the go-kart. But I remember one particular trip where we were going around, and my friend of mine who was getting very confident on the go-kart was driving, and my sister was sitting on my lap, and she was just holding on. There's no seatbelts, so we're just driving around. It was pretty safe, but anyway. Long story short, she fell over the edge of the go-kart as he was flying around the corner, and then the wheel went over her, and she was fine. But that split second where you just realise that my best friend realised you just run over my sister, and it was like, oh my goodness, she was totally fine. It was a very light little go-kart, but I just remember the look on his face. And
yeah.
it's like, what have I done? And still to this day, when I see him, I talk about, are you the one that ran over my sister? I'm not sure whether I should have shared that, but anyway.
Now.
It's done.
In the internet now. Okay, so you were working on the farm, but you've mentioned youth work. So was that sort of like your first type of employment outside of the farm?
Yes, so I worked for Dad straight out of school. I was working for Dad and working on the farm, and which I really enjoyed. And but yeah, alongside that was the youth work, which was there's the opportunity to start a youth group in the local church in Yolanda, and so I took on that opportunity, and it sort of started off very small. I think we had 2 or 3 kids, youth coming to the youth group, and it slowly grew, and I think it took a few years actually to sort of grow, but once it sort of really got to a point, I remember we started serving the school and running some lunchtime programs, and just saying how can we help these students at school, and it went pretty crazy. So we were having a lot of students from the school come along, and it was really fun. But I realised then that yes, I was passionate about farming, but I also was passionate about making a difference, and it was a lot of fun too, just getting out and running youth group programs in there.
So you're a people person, you'd say?
Love it. Yeah, love people. And I think from then on I was walking this line where I loved the farm, and I did farming also worked on the farm for a lot longer, but I knew that people was going to be a big part of where I was going to go in the future.
Okay. So where did that take you as a, that inkling of that there's something more beyond the farm? Where did it progress from there?
Yeah, so a lot of this comes from my my faith and my belief that people matter in life, and serving people, it's not just about your own gain, and so that was my personal conviction. And so the youth group, as I served other young people, I really found a huge amount of satisfaction in that, and seeing them grow. And so the transition became it was a natural one over time as the youth group grew to about 70, and there was things happening. I was like, I can't do this and the farm, and we I had to make some bigger decisions about what I was going to do in the future, which is quite hard because I obviously love the farm, and I talk about tractors. I enjoyed the farm lifestyle, but I really felt that that's where I needed to be going. As in the youth work. Yeah.
Okay. Was God a part of your upbringing, or is that something you discovered later on?
Yeah, very much so, Sarah. Yeah, so grew up, my parents were strong Christians, but it was something I guess I made the decision and owned a bit older in life, or, not old. I guess you can just live under what your parents believe, but I really, when I was 8, I made a commitment to I really understood a bit more of what it really meant to follow Jesus. But again, when I went to some camps and through the youth work, I remember really realizing that it wasn't just something you believed, or something you did on a Sunday, but it would become something that is a passion, and I guess I needed to make a decision for myself, not just because my family believed that, And so, yeah, and I really felt that, God was calling me to serve youth and serve other people, and I wanted them to experience what I'd experienced in my faith journey as well, which led to this amazing adventure, including, we ran a lot of camps and youth services across the whole region. And, the really exciting thing, we talked to a lot of people from different churches, but we used to get together. It didn't matter. We had people that were from the Catholic Church, from the Anglican Church, from the Church of Christ, and Baptist, and anybody else in between. And we used to come together for youth services. And I think out in the country, there's a bit more of a sense of that it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. We get together around, to celebrate God. And so, yeah, I think it was great. I bought a bus, and we bus kids, nice. Around to different places, and we'd go to Lock down to Port Lincoln, and even took kids over to conferences in Adelaide and even Sydney. That's a long drive.
Yeah, it is a long drive.
With teenagers, it's a long drive.
That's a very long drive with teenagers. But how did your life change after you did this act when you were 8 and you made this decision?
Good question. Yeah, so I think it's a gradual thing for me, where I started to, I think, let my decisions come out of not just my own desires, but out of the compassion that I have, like, God had given me for others, and understanding what He'd done for me in He'd laid down His life, that my life wasn't my own to gain, but as I gave it away, so to speak, then I'd actually gain the real, find out what life was really about. Mm-hmm. So I found, as I shared my life with others, my life was so full and so meaningful, as I was able to help others. And so I actually think seeing other people really come alive, I don't know if there's anything greater in life when you see somebody really get it for themselves. So I gave my life to that. Yeah.
How did you go about telling other young people, and how did they respond when you told them?
I think I didn't tell them as much as invite them on an adventure, and we would our youth group, we did some pretty crazy stuff.
As you do.
As you do in the country. I might not share all the stories, but it was just a lot of fun, and as we did life together and shared experiences, we would also share part of our stories. And so it would be myself or somebody else would share a bit about what Jesus meant to them at the end of the night, and over time people would come to see a change in us and want to know a bit more. And then the question would come, what makes you different, or what is it about Jesus? Why do you seem like a half reasonable person? What do you believe in this Jesus that lived so long ago? And how is that relevant to me? Yeah. So the questions come and it become a conversation rather than a telling.
What would you say to any young people who are listening or watching this right now, who might be like you, might be that 8-year-old, might be that 15-year-old that has been brought up in that house, but they're actually trying to make their own decisions about where to go and what to follow and what to do? What would you say to them right now?
Yeah. Make your own decision, like work out what you believe for yourself, whether it's that or not. It's better to make your own decision than to just walk along in the shadow of somebody else. So yeah, that is incredibly freeing, to know what you believe and to not be afraid of questions. Yeah. Fantastic.
It's not the end of the interview. There is more to come here on Life versus Sarah and Matt. So John and Matt, you two actually know each other. There is a story there. True. Have we worked it out? Do we know the time? We were talking off of filming.
I think it's 2 stories, but
okay, Matt, what's your story?
Well, we met in Adelaide, but so my question to you, John, is that I've lived on the Eyre Peninsula, and I know how you know. I know. Yeah, no, we'll get there. Okay, I know how little we people in the Eyre Peninsula love to travel to the city. Like, they don't unless they have to. So, but you ended up in Adelaide. So tell us about the process of moving,
Yeah, we can get to where we met.
and that
After
and
that,
that will
yeah.
come after.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you've been like overrun there, do you?
Overruled.
Overruled. So I was enjoying life in like on the farm, and then the youth ministry was something that I invested a lot more time into, and actually yes, I left the farm and invested in youth ministry, and that led me to, I was actually running a lawn mowing round. This is a long story, but and then actually I'm a maintenance worker as well at the local hospital. This is just to pay the bills while I was doing volunteer youth work, because it wasn't paid, and also become the chaplain at Port Lincoln High. So there was a whole lot of and those things were all happening together in a part-time capacity. So I was a maintenance, lawn mowing, chaplain person. Yeah, so, and youth worker. And plus actually leading a small church there as well in town. So all that together was keeping me quite busy. And a lot changed over, that was for a 3-year bracket where I wasn't on the farm, but I was doing youth ministry, and a lot of things changed, and I felt like it was time to do something different, and for a few different reasons. And this job out of the blue come up at Erbray High School looking for a full-time chaplain, and I thought, well, I do like chaplaincy and I do like ag, so what if I could see if I could apply for that job. And I thought because they sort of said they'd like somebody that they preferably had a few qualifications that I didn't have, and so I thought the chances were low. But I thought, well, I'll just see, and so I put my name in the ring, so to speak, and and got the job. Had an interview and got the job, and was a full-time chaplain. Moved to the city as a full-time chaplain, and life was different. So and then not long after that, I think that's to answer your question, Sarah, is where we met, and there's a little bit of discrepancy exactly where. But I do remember pancake breakfasts at Patter Cake on Doothie Street. Bit of a shout out for them down there. But we had a youth network gathering, and you were at Westbourne Park, or
so school chaplains are supported by local churches, and I was the youth pastor at a local church. So met John as a part of that network, which was a few years ago now.
Yeah, fantastic group there. I remember we had great breakfasts and coffees down there, and some really good chats about life and supporting youth. So it's a little while back there, and then you did went to Cummins. So I heard on your last interview. So
we got wind of the job in Cummins, and so I sussed John out because what's it really like. So I had the insider gossip, and it must have been all positive.
Yeah, I remember. I thought you just either really interested, or you want to go there. So but I'm glad it worked out well for you. So so I ended up in the city.
And what was that like, the chaplaincy role there, as opposed to the things you'd done back in the country, I guess, back on the Eyre Peninsula?
Yeah, it was actually a lot of the students that come there were from country or regional, even if it was just the hills. They had that sort of country vibe, so to speak. And so there was a really easy connection, I felt, with the people there. Very different living in the city, but really enjoyed the school and what they had to offer. And my role was very much just connecting with youth and supporting young people, which I'd done a lot of. A bit more intense. I remember a lot of people would come just to chat, so I found myself just listening to people, and like not so much counselling, just listening and supporting people and then referring. So it's a really interesting role, chaplaincy. Really get to hear a lot of stories, whether it's staff, students, walk some roads with people. So I really enjoyed that. So I ended up being there for 8 years.
Right.
Must have enjoyed something there.
Yes.
And had some fantastic opportunities. Went on some kayaking camps. I got to go on the fun camps. Rock climbing in Mount Arapiles. Did that a few times. That's camping and climbing, and and just lots of other little experiences in camps, and really enjoyed my time. They had a running farm there, so for those that don't know, and there's just a lot of, like, at lunchtime there's like pig club, cattle club, sheep club, goat club, believe it or not, and lots of other clubs as well. And so kids just get out. And so we had a photography club that I was running as well, which was a lot of fun. And I also used to bring a dog into school. So just to connect with people. And it's a bit different being able to bring a dog to work. But surprising bringing a Labrador. Molly was the lovely dog's name. And as she would walk down the corridor, it was amazing. You'd connect with kids that would never talk to you. And quite often, if someone was really upset, they would pat the dog for a few minutes, and then they'd tell you anything they wanted to, because they felt calmer. Isn't there something about dogs, isn't there?
Yeah, animals.
Non-judgmental.
Yes.
So that was really good time there, and I learnt a lot. I was still very much on a learning journey there, so they put up with me.
Yeah, and
That is.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I know you've talked about a few of your interests early on, but it tapped into your hobbies as well, being able to unleash into kayaking and some of the things that you were really interested in.
Sure.
As a part of your job.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit scared in the end because I went on the kayaking camp and come back and bought kayaks.
So that was the beginning.
But then I went on a rock climbing trip, and I thought, oh, I don't know if I really like this, but I can't just keep buying stuff. So I was careful what camps I went on after that. But and also the photography was something that really grew when I was in Adelaide. The opportunities to take photos.
Right. Well, we'll come back to that as we get to what you're doing now. Some exciting opportunities for you as well.
For sure.
Well, it's been really good to chat to you. We've got more still to come. We're chatting to John. This is Life Burst. On Life Burst, we are chatting to John, and John has had an amazing story so far. Ended up in Erbray as the chaplain, or whatever you might call that. Where did life take you from there? What was your transition out after 8 years?
Yeah, well, in that time, I actually met my wife. So it was she was actually a chaplain. They called them CPSWs, I think, back then. So the name has changed a fair bit, but I think chaplain, people know generally what chaplains do. But at a conference, we actually met. So that time was not wasted.
Okay, so a little bit more detail.
Oh, do you want to? Yeah, okay.
No,
I reckon it's time you jump. Yeah, I'll just jump to your question now, and we'll come back to how I back at you. So I met Alicia, at the conference. But the funny thing was, we sort of only really knew who each other were. We sort of moved in different circles in those conferences, and I was a bit nervous. She was just. Thought she was out of my league a little bit, So I never really said, properly chatted to her. But soon after that, I met her at a young adults camp, and I thought, I'm not going to waste this opportunity.
Got to do this. Got to step up and make it happen.
Say hello. So it started off with hello, and then I think the first day of the camp, the young adult camp, we ended up playing some mini golf, and I made sure I was in the group, sort of walked in so there was numbered off in the right group, all that planning.
Oh, yeah, strategic.
Yeah, I don't know if she knows that yet.
Yeah, she does.
And we hit it off and just had...
hit it off,
Good one, Matt. He's on fire. And I can see where you guys are good at your jobs, I'll tell you, it's good.
Amazing.
Yeah, really good. And we, so the first day was great. And then, I think... after that, scared her off a little bit. So, and
how?
But we finished. Well,
how?
there was just a bit of miscommunication is probably the best way of saying it. And so, and just a few people that she had heard different things about. She didn't really trust me. So a little bit of time went over. So I after camp contacted her on good old Facebook Messenger, and said, hi, and we sort of started chatting a little bit on there. I think she left it about a week between each chat just to keep me guessing.
Play cool.
We ended up catching up, and from then on, I knew when we caught up, went down the beach and just sat down, had fish and chips, and a good yarn down the beach. And from then on, it was really, we knew there was we just had so much in common, and I think the word love grew pretty quickly. So.
I want to know, did the young people at that camp know that you were into her? Did they know?
Yes, I think it was pretty obvious.
Oh, what did they say? What did they do?
Well, I think well, it was just a little bit awkward because an ex was there. Let's just put it there.
Right.
It's all coming out now.
Yeah. Complicated.
So that's sort of where things got a little bit complicated, and so I think that's why we needed a bit of time after camp to sort of connect and just share and so, and you know what, those things become make you stronger, I think, in the end. And so it's honestly a miracle sometimes when you hear people's stories, how they actually get together, and I think ours is too. Like, but she obviously wasn't too scared away.
So
I asked that question because I've been a young person in a youth group watching two youth leaders come together, and you all know that they like each other now. They're married and have a couple of kids.
Well, this was a young adult camp, so everyone was sort of around the same age, so it wasn't sort of like the leaders so much. But it was a really good camp. I think I think it's called 20s plus camp, so get on it if you're not on it already. Yeah.
Okay.
If you need,
good tip.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm glad you got through that. Glad you got through that.
I don't know to ask how he proposed to her. Clearly they're married because there's a ring, and there has to be a story if there's a story already illegal.
This is a good one. Well, interestingly enough, the proposal was a bit of a drawn out thing because I tried. My wife, Alicia, loves aeroplanes, so I knew aeroplanes were going to have to be involved in this proposal. So I had a friend who's a pilot. I thought, we're going to do something really special and fly her over to KI, fly over a beach, and we're going to write "Marry Me" on the ground, and it's going to be like epic.
Amazing.
So I planned this out twice, and both times there was a reason why the plane was grounded, and I'd had to make a reason up why our date wasn't going ahead or whatever. So after that, she was getting a bit like, are you going to ever like ask me? And so she was house sitting at near the airport, and I went down to visit, and I thought, something's got to happen, like, because she's starting to really think I don't love her, like I'm not going to ask her to marry her. So I thought, I really have to make something happen soon. So I rang up my family in Port Lincoln and said, look, if I can fly over there, like in the morning, this is really can you give me a car with could we get a car there and some a picnic and a few nice things, so to make it a really special day. And they said, oh yeah, we'd love to be a part of that. Who doesn't want to be a part of it?
I know, right? That's exactly right.
And so we ended up so I surprised her, so let's just go to the airport for coffee in the morning, which is not surprising because she likes coffees and planes, so she was not suspicious.
Right, that would be very weird.
I may have said to her, like, make sure you pack some clothes or something, but which must have got a little bit weird, I think, when you think about like, so we're just going for a date to the airport and you want me to pack some overnight clothes. But anyway, we flew, and it was really exciting just to fly out, and she didn't know where we were going until we got on the plane. And we went over there and we went back and played some mini golf just for tradition's sake. I think she beat me, but I'm not sure whether I let her or not. That's another story. But we ended up at a beach, and the sun, sometimes you can't plan things as good as they turn out. And I had brought some candles, but I didn't think it through, because how many times do you really think you can light candles on a beach without the wind blowing out candles? But this night you could.
Okay.
Oh.
So the sun was setting, and there was not a breath of wind, and these candles lit. So there's tea light candles. I sort of said, I need to go to the bathroom or something really romantic, and set up this. She walked away, and we set up this lovely setting, and it just was just such a nice evening on a beach out on the west coast. And like I said, there was no one on the beach.
Amazing.
So it was really good. And from there, the story just went from there.
So one knee.
Definitely we got down on one knee and said, will you marry me? And there was emotion on my part as well, I must say. So it was pretty special hearing, even though you know that, you think you know, when you hear someone say, yes, I want to spend the rest of your life with you. We were both not young, so we knew what we want. We knew where we were in life, and we knew we wanted to be together. So it was just really exciting to know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
How old were you?
So I was 33 then, and she would have been 29. Or A. I'll go with A just in case. That's what's better.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really special to share that with all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good memories.
And then you became two, but the family didn't stay that way as well. Things have grown.
Yes, yeah. So it was a bit of a gap. Like for the first 4 years, we weren't able to have kids straight away, which was good for us, I think, to cement our marriage and spend time together. And we went to New Zealand on a holiday, and I remember a few holidays like that where it was just really great. Just to, like now with kids, it's just a little bit harder to do those sort of things. I'm sure you'd understand. But then we were very blessed to have our son Caleb, and then Benjamin. So Caleb's now 3, just turned 3 a few weeks ago, and Benjamin's he's 6 months tomorrow. Yes, there you go. So yeah,
fantastic. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. This is my first. We've just heard a very romantic story from John. We'll be back with more with Sarah and Matt. So, John, you have just shared with us a lovely story of your wife and how you met her. But let's go back to your work and what you did once you left Urbray.
Sure. So, like I said, I really enjoyed my time at Urbray, and it was very much... just being there with people. I think just spending time with people, but I felt like I needed to push myself a little bit to. I enjoyed it, and I think I was reasonably good at what I did, and loved the connections I was making. And over 8 years, you really see people walk through a journey of life. So I really enjoyed and valued that bit, but felt like it was time to just do something a little bit different and allow someone else to come in too with new skill sets. And so I ended up at Unley Park Baptist for a short stint there as a youth pastor, and because that's what I'd done in the past, but really realised then that I like chaplaincy was something I really missed about the chaplaincy, and ended up at Hills Christian Community School, which is a fantastic school at Verdun, and they'd just moved to their first year 12s. They'd been building up from year 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with their secondary school. So I was there for their first year as I was chaplain at the school. I was only a few days a week, but in a Christian school was a very different role to being in at a state school. So I was able to share openly about my faith, and obviously that was my role to share. And in that context of connected with Matt again, who was in the Hills, and come in and you shared a lot as well, some devotions and with our staff and our students. And so I had the opportunity to lead the school in the spiritual space there for 4 years, and which was a real honour. Just really enjoyed being in that space, and and obviously a lot of the skills that I'd learnt in youth work and also in the chaplaincy had really come across, and I obviously grew a lot in my upfront. That the biggest change was a lot of upfront sharing, and once again ended up on lots of camps and doing lots of fun things in the school there, and also hearing a lot of really difficult stories in my role. Really enjoyed that, and so that was 4 years in the Hills, which is where we're living, by the way. We got married, and my wife was working at Kersbrook, and I was working at Urbray, so we sort of drew a line, and we're like, we could live the northern suburbs of Adelaide, or northeast sort of thing, or we could live in the Hills. I think we'll go to the Hills, but being country.
Good choice.
Yeah, good choice.
Hey.
So moving up here to work up here was a bit of a decision too, to be closer to family, being able to get home a bit earlier as well. So that's what I've been doing, and. Yeah, photography become...
I know, I really want to talk about your photography. We're going to have some pictures pop up on the screen of your photography as well for those who are watching us via video podcast. But how did that start?
Yeah, well, interesting. It sort of goes back a little bit. When I was working at Urbray, I was trying, it's not a highly paid role, the chaplaincy at either school. So one of the ways that I was trying to get a bit more income was photography. And that started when I was on a mission trip in Papua New Guinea, and I just bought a SLR camera, which is really beginner's camera, the one I had, and there was no one with a camera on the trip. So they said, "Do you want to be the trip photographer?" And I thought, "Well, I sort of have to be, don't I? I've got the camera. You haven't got the camera." So I took some photos there, and they turned out pretty well. And so then a few people said, "Oh, can you photograph my 21st or birthday party?" And then someone said to me out of the blue, friends of mine, Isaac and Eden, hello, Telfer, they said, "Oh, can you do our wedding photos?" And I thought, "Oh, there's a big jump between doing a birthday party and a wedding." So I had some help along the way from a few friends, professional photographers. And yes, I did photograph my first wedding. First wedding.
Yeah.
And actually, surprisingly enough, they turned out all right. And I really enjoyed, one thing I learned is I really enjoyed, as a people person, being a part of someone's day, and not just the photos, but serving them and being a part of the day. So I grew in those skills, and I've been doing wedding photography for 10 years and still continuing and loving that. And I've come to a bit of a transition in the last 12 months. So
Of what now?
Oh, yes. So
Don't leave us hanging.
Okay.
What are you doing now?
Good question. So the end of last year, so in October, I decided that it was time to pursue my photography. Not that I wasn't passionate about my role, but I felt like it was time to pursue that. And, having grown up with my parents and being able to work with them, I really enjoyed working with my dad. And I thought, I'd love my sons, in 10, 20 years time to be able to have the opportunity to go on adventures with their dad. And so started a business called Adventure Art Photography, and that's all about photography adventures. So taking people out, out, I guess from a school's point of view, outdoor ed, sort of some of the camp experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
So going to the Flinders Rangers and taking people out on experiences like that, as well as photos of the Milky Way, lightning sort of workshops, and even getting out in the autumn in the hills and taking some photos of the leaves. So a bit of a new phase for myself, and still enjoying taking photos of weddings. So I've sort of jumped in the deep end, a bit of a massive step of faith with our 2 kids to feed. So far, this year's been a really great year of weddings, seeming like COVID really affected us last year, and affected a lot of people that were trying to get married. So this year's been a good year for, I think people are now feeling a bit more confidence in that. So so a bit of a change.
Where has your faith? No. Where is your faith in all of this?
Well, interestingly enough, because that was probably the hardest part of the decision. Was you can see a theme of faith being very much through my journey, and I really believe that it's really who you are that is the biggest part of that. It's not necessarily the role you have, and sometimes the role can be really helpful, but sometimes the role, as I'm sure you know as a pastor, Matt, sometimes people will then put the wall up as well and go, "Oh, I'm not sure about whether I want to engage with that." And the first tour I did, photography tour I did, we ended up chatting with a few people afterwards, and just great people. And they said, "Oh, can we sit down and have a chat with you at the pub?" And we had some really good chats about photography and faith and life, and I wouldn't have had those conversations either. So just being who I am, and I've also pushed in and a bit more in my commitments to my local church, Hills Baptist, and in an eldership role there. So I'm finding plenty of opportunities through to share my faith, and I find when I'm out in creation, taking photos and taking people on a journey, that those opportunities are really special as well. So there's nothing like sitting out and looking at the Milky Way. It's not hard to bring up. It points us to a higher being, doesn't it? And God being out there. So yeah.
I was going to say, even your photography, it captures that. What you're observing on Facebook, you've posted some of your photos over the years. They are awe-inspiring. The way you've captured the Milky Way and some of those things, and it's a real gift to be able to do that, and a bit of effort and energy gone into capturing that on the screen as well. So I can see why people are drawn to want to know more. And you've probably had lots of questions along the way of, how did you get that? How did you capture that shot? And you've now got a way to do that to show people. Yeah.
I know a few people in my life have said if you can make your passion your job, that's the ultimate aim, and life's sort of too short. And I know that you've got to be careful with that as in a way too, because sometimes we can do things that are really unwise. But this one is a calculated risk, and yes, there's definitely a risk involved, but there's a massive upside, and I'm really blessed to have some good people that have also been able to support me in some work if I need it as well. So, and I'm enjoying the family time as well, which just comes along with it.
So we're coming to the end of our interview. So as you know, the question we like to ask all of our guests at the end is if you had one piece, or maybe in your case, multiple pieces of advice to give to our listeners,
Sure.
What would that be today?
Yes. Well, firstly, know where you stand with God. And I don't mean that in a sort of a weird way, but I believe that's a pretty important question to sort through for yourself. We've talked about that, but for me, I just know, knowing who you're created to be is such a incredibly incredible thing for your identity, that you know who you are. And for me, I know that I'm enough outside of what I do. I think if you don't know you're enough outside of what you do, you'll always try to prove yourself, and you'll never feel enough. Doesn't matter whether you have $1 million or you chase that dream and become whatever you think you're going to be. So for me, I know that I start out knowing that I'm already enough because God's created me for a purpose. And so I believe that's pretty important. Secondly, I think life's an adventure, and to embrace it and to not die wondering, so to speak. So for me, I believe in jumping in and going for it, and whatever that is, and embracing the things that are really important, and for me that's family, and holding on to that as my number one, after God. So so that's not one piece, is it? But
It's fine. Okay.
3 things. So you make sure you know where you stand with God, because your life lives out of that. Life's an adventure. So just enjoy it, and press into things that really matter in life. And I've really appreciated the opportunity to share with you guys as well. This has been a really special show, by the way, so it's been good to be a part of.
Aww.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, for opening up about all of those things, and sharing a bit of your photography with us along the way as well. It's just really, really good to hear that story and the wisdom you shared.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. This has been Life Bursts. You can catch up with us wherever you get your podcasts from, or you can watch us on YouTube and Facebook. My name is Sarah.
I'm Matt. Thanks again so much for joining us.
Life Bursts is hosted by Matthew Karat and Sarah Freeman, with production by Reese Jarrett and Kay Hoshro Ozadigan, with additional assistance by Brett Freeman. For more episodes of Life Bursts, go to rawcut.com.au. This is a RawCut production.